And now, you're tuned in to RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's RBLR Sports.
Hello, RBLR Nation. Welcome to another week of Bucs football. Man, I wish we had better news. I wish we were coming off a victory. I wish for a lot of things. But unfortunately, none of that's the case. But fortunately, I do have my boy Zach Blaine with me from the Rays podcast. He might as well be a permanent member of this podcast. Say what's up to the people, Zach.
What's going on, guys? How you doing, Carter?
Doing well, living lavish. How about yourself, my man?
Hey, trying our best. We just had a tree fall on the Durango while Michaela was taking the kids to school on Monday, so it's been exciting stuff.
Oh dear.
Yeah. Everyone's all good. We're just down a car now, so now we're trying to tote 4 kids around in a Charger. So it's been exciting.
Yeah, that's life right there. I'm glad.
Right.
Hey, though, that's of course the important part. But yeah, more bad news, unfortunately. For the Bucs, just another week, another L. It's feeling routine at this point.
Yeah.
And that's really tough to see for a team that's led by Tom Brady. The Ravens just what can you say, really? Lamar Jackson's a tremendous player. He played his butt off. I mean, it seemed like in that second half, the Ravens game just kind of flipped a switch, and it was just like, well, that's the game. And the Bucs just kind of looked listless and lifeless at the end. So yeah, I mean, the first quarter they took a 10-3 lead. I thought, oh man,
it looked great.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe they were turning things around. But as the game progressed, it became clear that was not actually the case. So, I mean, Zach, you got any initial thoughts on the game from this past Thursday? I know it was Prime football. I don't know if you have Amazon Prime. It's kind of a pain in the butt they put it on there. But
yeah, I mean, I very, very legally stream all of my football watching. But no, so I did watch the game, and you said it perfect. The first quarter, it was like, oh, this is Tampa that we expect. Like, I would have loved for them to put up, 20 points in the first quarter, but hell, a first quarter touchdown, the first of the season, I was like, it's a turning point. We're getting it. It's happening. And then, yeah, you said it. The game was not as close as it looked like on the scorecard afterwards, but I mean, Lamar just did Lamar things, and that was with Mark Andrews out most of the game.
Yeah, I mean, Mark Andrews was active. He was basically a non-participant, like you said. He didn't really play most of the game.
Yeah, I think he got hurt. It may have been the first quarter that he got hurt, and then literally set out the rest of the game, which sucks because he's on my fantasy team.
Right.
But that was kind of what was more worrisome, because we got a guy like Isaiah Likely come in and have 6 catches for almost 80 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah, I mean, the I don't want to say no name because he's an NFL player, but the kind of relatively unheard of guy at a Coastal Carolina.
Yeah.
Dropping 77 yards. I mean,
that's ridiculous.
Yeah. And the even more concerning thing is the 200 plus yards given up on the ground. I mean, Jesus, I know, don't get me wrong, I am well acquainted with how good the Ravens running game is. They've got a master offensive coordinator that really knows how to just get shit done. And of course, it's easy to do that when you have Lamar Jackson.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it was really difficult to watch. I think the moment I knew that the game was kind of over was that Lamar 25-yard run where he just kind of did his thing and made everyone look silly. I mean, it's Lamar, so you can't really fault for the Bucs defenders.
Yeah, you sort of expect it at this point,
yeah.
And then that just kind of put a dagger in my heart. And then seeing, Lamar was technically the worst rusher on their team.
Right.
Like yards per carry, which is insane to say about Lamar because he's always leading the team in rushing. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, he averaged 4.8 yards a carry, which is at least 1.5 yards more than Tampa averages, just to throw that out there. Right. But every single person, every other running back on their team had not even just running backs. There was a wide receiver that averaged 16.5 yards a carry.
Yeah, Devin.
So you look at the lowest they had was 6 yards per carry, and it just – no matter how good their running game is, you can't let that happen, and we let it happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it was just another week of just disappointing performances from the Bucs. I mean, just kind of across the board, not really anyone playing well. The offense looked stagnant in the second half. They put up a little bit of a fight at the end there, but yeah, it was brutal to watch. The Bucs are certainly spiraling right now.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at the schedule coming up. I mean, it's tough. It's tough because this Ravens game was certainly not winnable. You don't want to say winnable because of how poor the Bucs have been playing and how well coached the Ravens are. But the Bucs are the favorites going into this game.
Yeah.
There aren't going to be very many games moving forward where that's the case. So it's tough to see the Bucs lose a game like this. I mean, with how good these teams are that are coming up, do you think that things are only going to get uglier from here, Zach? I mean, kind of seeming that way at this point.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, when you have guys, and we haven't really touched on defense too much, but when you have guys like that are our captain, and
Right.
very specifically one person
Right.
who I have been rooting for all season to watch the Ravens game when he just completely gave up on the play, on multiple plays, like walking. I mean, in high school football, you don't do that or you get in trouble. Like,
For
you
sure.
can't, you have to be more responsible with what you do. And it just feels like with people taking plays off and seeming like they just lost interest or don't care, it just feels like, Devin White needs to be that leader, and it's just not going to happen. So I think we need to just buckle up at this point.
For sure. And we don't want to mince words here. We can throw names out there,
Yeah,
I
I was trying to, you never know. Maybe he'll be on the show one day, and I don't want to be like that Zach guy because he could probably kick my ass. But
yeah,
but he looked very lazy in especially Thursday's game. But it's been a kind of running thing on this season so far. I've seen a lot of people kind of talking bad on him, and this game was the first game that I realized it, and that's what kind of makes me think that it's just going to get worse.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at least in the beginning half of the season, it kind of seemed like, oh, they're figuring some stuff out. They're missing some offensive linemen. The defense was playing pretty well for the first part, but then, man, it seemed like this last game, it was kind of just a lack of effort, like you mentioned. Yeah. And when your captain, one of the leaders of your team is kind of slacking off, just lagging behind, not really putting forth a lot of effort, it trickles down, it spreads to the rest of the team like a virus. And it's really disappointing to see a former first round pick do that. And especially because, I mean, shit, Devin White's coming up on a contract year next year. So, I mean, it's not like he's playing for nothing. So I didn't really, like you said, I did not understand that at all, because he's playing for a paycheck. I mean, they all are, but especially him.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like you look at these big names like Micah Parsons, I don't think anyone should take a playoff, but if Micah Parsons takes a playoff and does that, like, we're not going to say anything because he has played at an all-pro level. Like,
right.
White hasn't done that yet.
No.
He's been very solid, but he's not played at an all-pro level where he deserves to take time off, or I think has the ability to without taking a hit, like on social media and eventually in his pockets.
For sure. Yeah, and I mean, like you said, Minka Parsons, he is not.
Yeah, exactly. Like
he's not the type of caliber player that can kind of get away with that kind of thing. So yeah, I'm definitely with you. It's definitely just really tough to see. And so now that we've talked about kind of the Ravens game, kind of touched on it, we also got to talk about, there's been a lot of news over the past week with the trade deadline, and what team has not been mentioned at all? The Bucs.
The Bucs and the Packers. I have to throw a dig at the Packers a little bit because they're worse than us.
Right. For sure. Yeah, I mean, neither of those teams, but especially the Bucs, because, I mean, good Lord, the offensive line looks rough. I mean, Shaq Barrett just went down with that Achilles injury. We'll get into that in a little bit. And there are just so many holes on this roster that kind of feel like they need to be filled, and just to sit complacently and just continue to run out this roster, it just feels kind of like giving up. Were there any moves that you were looking for them to make specifically, Zach, that you're really bummed that they didn't do?
I mean, we mentioned it last week where I said that I didn't think there was going to be any trades made, but I wanted trades made.
Right.
I really wanted Hunt to come over. I would have loved to pair Kareem Hunt and Leonard Fournette in the backfield. I think that would have been beautiful. Again, I didn't expect it because looking at this roster, like they're all aging guys. We don't really have any young talent that's super tradable. I mean, you look at Sean Murphy Bunting and with Antoine Winfield playing more of a slot corner. I know he's a safety, but he's playing more of a slot corner role this year.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like Murphy Bunting was a guy that could have been traded, but it felt like all of our guys that were tradable are either on expiring contracts or older. It didn't feel like we had the trade bait to go out and get people. And I know I saw a lot of stuff with everyone being like, "Oh, well, they have draft picks and they need to win now." We don't have the cap space to trade just draft picks for a player who's any good. Like we're going to be getting league minimum type players for draft picks that just doesn't make sense for our future, let alone right now.
Yeah, for sure. And like you mentioned, I mean, yeah, you can't be trading away draft picks if you're the Bucs because of the salary cap issues moving forward too. Because the draft is really going to be the only way that they can replace talent or acquire talent at this point. Just because they've got so many backloaded contracts, all the cap is going to come, and the Bucs are going to be in a tough position when it comes to free agency for quite a few years. So the only place to get talent moving forward. So you can't mortgage the farm on a team that's 3-5. You know, I mean,
exactly.
Yeah, it just doesn't happen. But then from the flip side, do you sell with a team that has Tom Brady on it? Like that's a bold play.
Yeah, like, that's ballsy as hell. Like
Yeah, so it's kind of just complacency. You kind of get stuck in a place where like, well, we don't want to screw up the future, but we also don't want to. It's like,
it's almost like they're in that gray area where they can't because Brady's not going to be happy if you go trade someone like Mike Evans.
For sure.
Like, and I mean, that's obviously like I don't think Mike Evans is ever going anywhere. I think he's kind of the face of the franchise. That's not Tom Brady, but sure. I don't think someone like him would go anywhere. But if you trade one of his weapons, now he's going to be pissed, and you don't want to piss Tom Brady because he's already doing Tom Brady things. So it's just like why we're in that gray area where we can't really get rid of anyone, but we can't acquire anyone because we're paying everyone so much. So it's just like complacency is a good word for it, but they're stuck in the in between. Like they're just kind of there.
Yeah, and that's an awful place to be. I mean, you see it happens in basketball all the time. I mean, there are teams that the Sacramento Kings have been mediocre for the past century. So it's just
I mean, the Denver Nuggets.
Right.
I'm just kidding. I had to throw that in for our producer. I promise.
For sure. Yeah, you got it. But yeah, I mean, it's a tough position to be in for the Bucs. I mean, Shaq Barrett, like we mentioned earlier, he tore his Achilles and now he's on IR. And man, I mean, now they got to run with Joe Tryon-Shoyinka and Carl Nassib as their edge rusher. And the pass rush was already not their strong point at this point with that. And it's just going to get weaker. And so I was hoping, with the Shaq Achilles tear that maybe they would trade for a pass rusher. Maybe not Bradley Chubb, because I know Chubb went for a first, which I found absolutely ridiculous.
I'm telling you, man.
Yeah. Right.
I'm telling you, this is not a Baker Mayfield situation. He is going to do so good with Ogba. I know we're not a Dolphins podcast. I actually don't even like the Dolphins, but he's going to do so good with Ogba on the other side.
If you say, I'm going to hold you to that, brother. If he gets hurt,
telling you,
or if he's mid, I'm going to hold you to that.
I'm all for it. We'll have an off-season show and you could give me crap if he's bad.
Hell yeah! I mean, then again, I also thought that the Bucs were going to the Super Bowl and win. So the hell do I know? Yeah, I mean, it's definitely tough to see Shaq Barrett go down, especially with I mean, like we've been talking about. So I mean, I don't know. Do we expect Carl Nassib to come up and replace Shaq Barrett? I mean, how are we feeling about this? I hate it.
I don't think anyone can replace Barrett. Like I really do think he is top of the league, not necessarily the best, but top 5 in the league at getting the quarterback. I think he is a phenomenal pass rusher.
For sure.
I think that last time Nassib played for us, he was very good. Solid. I won't say very good. He was solid, though. And I think that if we can maybe adjust the playbook a little bit, which very clearly is almost impossible for Tampa to do if you're watching our offense at all.
Right.
But if we can kind of build around not having Shaq Barrett, I think that Nassib is going to be a very solid replacement. I would like to go out and get a guy like A.J. Johnson, who used to play for Denver, who's a free agent right now. I think that would be awesome to get. But, again, that goes back to cap space. I don't know that we'll be able to.
Yeah, I mean, it's very constricting to be so pressed up against the cap like the Bucs are. So, I mean, like you said, if they want anybody of quality, they're going to have to pay for it. They're going to have to restructure contracts, which just continues to put their future just kind of down the toilet.
Exactly.
And, I mean, so, yeah, I mean, we've kind of covered the trade deadline in the Ravens game and the mess that was. So now moving forward, we're kind of – I was really surprised that no coaching changes were made this past week. I mean, and I don't know. I mean, it just felt like the team's kind of given up. They've stopped listening. I don't know what it is, but you're 3-5 with Tom Brady as your quarterback. They had all these expectations. You think that moving forward, like let's say they lose to the Rams this week. I mean, are we expecting any coaching changes? I feel like at this point, no, but maybe do you feel differently, Zach? You think any coaching changes are made?
Yeah, that's how we were just talking about them being in the in between with kind of what they can do. That's kind of where I'm at with like a coach change. I think that if we see a coaching change this season, it'll be during the bye week. I think they'll wait till then because at that point we'll know if our season's done or not, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, I feel you because once the bye week hits, if they're still looking like trash, I mean, that bye week's right after the Seahawks game. If they if they don't at least go 1-1, I mean, if they lose to the Seahawks, that's
and I mean, that's what's terrifying is that Geno Smith is having a very solid season.
Yeah, Geno Smith.
And it's like normally I'd be like, oh, we just got beat by Geno Smith, but unfortunately, he's going to be one of the better quarterbacks that we've played up until this point. Like, obviously, we played Mahomes. Like, he's better. Lamar, in my opinion, is better. But, this season, Geno Smith is probably the top 3 quarterback that we've played so far this season. Not in the NFL that we've played. Like, so
for sure.
I guess at this point, looking that far forward, a game that at the beginning of the season, I've been like, that's a give me win. I'm like, nope. Shit. Like, these guys are good.
Absolutely. Yeah, and the Seahawks, they're another team. They're similar to the Ravens. They've got a coach that's been there for a while. They have a well-established culture. So, I mean, they have a really, really solid chance of beating any team at any time. And especially against a struggling team like the Bucs, they're going to take advantage of that. Pete Carroll seems to be a master motivator. He seems to really be working some magic with Geno, like you mentioned, and they've got that young rookie running back out of Michigan State,
Kenneth Walker, yeah,
and a monster. So, I mean, looking forward, the Bucs could very easily go 0-2 over these next 2 games, and if that happens, and Todd Bowles or Byron Leftwich or both of them aren't gone, that's just I don't know what to say about that. That would be.
I think that Leftwich goes first,
and
they may give Bowles the season.
Okay, yeah.
I don't think they should, but I do think that Bowles is one of Arians' guys, so he's going to have more of a longer leash than Leftwich has. Even though Leftwich is also one of Arians' guys, I think that more of the blame per se falls on to Leftwich's shoulders as opposed to Todd Bowles, because everyone knew coming into it Todd Bowles was a defensive coach. So whoever they put at the offensive coordinator position was going to be the one that kind of ran our offense, and I think that that's where we're falling short right now.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. The red zone struggles are just
God.
And it seems like the play calling just lacks creativity, lacks inspiration. I don't know. A lot of people have the little not conspiracies, that's a little harsh, but theories that Brady's really the offensive coordinator and Leftwich is just kind of there, which if that's the case, then good Lord, Tom Brady, what is he doing?
Why are we running the ball so much, Tom?
Right. I know the trigger word or the trigger phrase for Bucs fans is first down run. I mean, it seems like every first down it's just a handoff, and the stats certainly bear it out. But yeah, I mean, luckily, one thing that Bucs fans don't have to worry about is getting merchandise. Because RBLR Sports, we got the shop. The link is in the description, and you know what? We're gonna bless you with a little promo code. It's Cannons for 10% off your order. That's CANNONS. That's Cannons. And yeah, if you're looking for some new threads to make yourself feel better because you're sad because your hot Brazilian supermodel wife left you, maybe, maybe your team's 3-5, and if both of those things are the case, then more than likely you're Tom Brady. But anyways, so yeah, feel free to check out the shop. So yeah, shameless shop plug right there. But yeah, moving forward. So the Bucs, like we've kind of mentioned, they're playing the Rams this Sunday at 4:15. They're playing at home. I don't know. I mean, how are we feeling about this one? Initial thoughts from you, Zach? What are your initial feelings about this game?
Cooper Kupp is going to do whatever if he plays. I know it's looking like he's going to play, but he's on the injury report, so maybe he won't play and he'll just get healthy, which would be great for him and great for us. But Cooper Kupp seems to have a field day when he plays us, so I see that continuing, and it's just the Rams are not a very good team, but I think they could have a very good outing against us.
Yeah, I mean we're kind of getting back towards the it's a Bucs life routine where it seems like the worst teams in the NFL seem to have, games where they look like the undefeated Dolphins.
Yeah.
So it's tough, and I kind of see that in the future with the Rams game, like you mentioned. Cooper Kupp being hurt or being questionable, at least with his ankle, is definitely tough because the Rams offense is already in a rough place. But that defense, I mean, shoot, they still have Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey and Bobby Wagner, and they've got a lot of talent. And on that defense, Leonard Floyd is really a tremendous pass rusher. So it could really be a defense. I don't know. Definitely going to be interesting to see matchups that take place because of those injuries to the Rams, like Cooper Kupp, and because Matthew Stafford has been so bad. I don't really know what's going to happen in this game. It's definitely going to be interesting to see going forward what happens. But yeah, I mean, like you said, if Cooper Kupp is healthy, I don't think the Bucs stand a chance. And even if he's not healthy, the Bucs, I still don't really think that they change.
Yeah, and that's what's so terrifying. Like the fact that their best player, we're talking about him being out, and then we're also saying that there's still a slim chance that we win this game. Like that's insane to me.
Yeah, I mean that is a really depressing realization to go through. Is it's their most powerful offensive weapon could be out, and yet we're still sitting here. I mean it's bad. It's really really bad. So I mean, now that we're talking about this game, are there any key matchups that you're looking for? I mean, some that come to mind are the Ramses Evans matchup is going to be really interesting. Evans kind of had that huge catch at the end of the NFC Championship game last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, Donald versus this banged up O line. I mean, especially because the interior of the Bucs O line seems to be really, really struggling right now with Hainsey and Gadecki or whoever they throw out there.
Levert, or however you pronounce his last name.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, are there any key matchups that you're looking for, Zach?
Yeah, I think again you touched on it perfectly when you said Aaron Donald against a very poor interior offensive line right now. And then Evans on Ramsey, that's always a really good matchup every time they play. It's interesting to see because it seems like it goes back and forth every time they play. But I feel like a bigger thing is just going to be our run game against their front seven.
Yeah, I would say that maybe they could have a breakout game, but I feel like we've been trying to say that for the past, the whole season. Changing. Their run game's been awful up to this point, and it's going to continue to be so, unfortunately. When the interior of your offensive line is as bad as it is, combined with Leonard Fournette's tendencies to, be an interior runner between the tackles kind of guy, that's it's a recipe for disaster. So that it explains perfectly why the Bucs have been such a poor running team, and the Rams are. They got a game wrecker in Aaron Donald. He can pretty much single-handedly stop your running game.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and I feel like we're not giving, not necessarily us, but I feel like a lot of people aren't giving Fournette enough credit because like he is such an inside runner.
Mhm.
And so, like, I feel like I know I've at least talked crap on him. Not really crap on him, but I've talked about his contract being too much. And I feel like a big part of that is the fact that our interior line is so poor. Like, you look at last season compared to this season, at the numbers of inside runs that Fournette, broke out or broke open and got to the open field, and it's so much lower this season. I don't have the exact numbers, but I was looking into it the other day, and it's just we have no big plays on a regular basis from Fournette, and I think a big part of that is our interior line, and this is not a game that I think we're going to be able to break that mold that we have this season.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, let's not kid ourselves. The Bucks for the Pat and Tom Brady era have never been a run first team by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, fair.
It's been an extreme this year. They broke the record for fewest rushing attempts in that Saints game in
Yeah.
season. So it's not like they've ever been the Ravens or anything. But good Lord, they're the worst running team in the NFL this year. And yeah, I mean, when you go from Ryan Jensen and Ali Marpet and Alex Cappa to Robert Hainsey and Luke Gadecki / Everett, whoever the hell they throw in there. I mean,
Yeah, I think it's Nick Levert or Leverett or
yeah,
however you say his name.
Lil Uzi Vert, whatever. It's brutal.
Hey, at this point, it might not be much of a downgrade with him in there.
I mean, I know Lil Uzi Vert's a little undersized, but
He's feisty.
for sure got some energy about him. So yeah, I mean, it's really difficult to see the Bucs pulling out this game, even though it's at home. I mean, the home field advantage, quote unquote, just has not been there. I mean, they've got that one win against the Falcons, but they've also lost to the Packers. They lost to the Ravens. They lost to the Chiefs. I mean, they've been blowing some home games, and so it's tough. I mean, Zach, do you want to drop a score prediction for the people?
Do I want to? Not really, but I'm going to. I'm going to say it is a. I know we're going to lose. That's my prediction. But I'm going to say I'm having a hard time, like, compartmentalizing if it's going to be a blowout or a close game. So I'm going to go 31-17. Yeah, 31-17 Rams win.
Wow, 31-17. Okay.
Yeah.
And you know what? You know who just came into the room? You know who's blessing us with his presence? My boy Santiago. And Santiago was at the mall apparently.
What's up, everyone? What's going on? RBLR Nation. Yeah. I was at one of our local malls here.
What'd you get us?
I know got like a new fresh Tampa Bay Buccaneer gear all the time, 100%. 813-727. What's going on?
I mean, not quite as nice as the RBLR merch, but we'll take it.
Exactly. That's correct. Like you can go to shop.rblrsports.com, everyone. And also, you can get that, that promotional code. We got Cannons, CANNONS, 10% off your order. Yeah, go get some fresh merch. You know what I mean? You can start. We have inspiration from our Bucs, our Tampa Bay area teams, from the Bucs to the Rowdies to the Rays to the Lightning, and but yeah, no, we're talking about the game coming up this week versus the Rams, and it's tough, man. It's really tough seeing our team. Brady's been going through some personal stuff. That's actually, hopefully can kind of be in the back of his mind, because when you're going through it, it's difficult. But now that it's past it, maybe he can focus more. And with the Rams, man, I believe, and I'm gonna put a W on this one.
Wow.
Okay.
You're crazy, man.
I'm gonna go with my always score that I always say, 27-20. That's my score, and we're gonna win at home.
Man, that's a bold take if I've ever heard one. But hey, thank goodness we have Santiago on here because I know me and Zach have been some negative Nancy's throughout this whole show. Had to bring some positivity in right before the buzzer. But yeah, I gotta say I'm with Zach. I don't see the Bucs winning this game. I think it might be a little more low scoring. I think the Rams take it home 17-10. Both offenses just look atrocious. Both quarterbacks are incredibly old, and they are shot.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a lack of mobility there. Both offensive lines are terrible. So when you're combining those two things together, it's just it's just not good. So it's not going to be pretty football. It's going to be gritty. I think, 17-10 is my score. And yeah, I mean, it's a tough time to be a Bucs fan. It is not fun, which is not something I was expecting this year. So
It feels like we're back to the old school Bucks fans. Like it feels like back in old school, like life as a Bucks fan is rough. And it's been since I've been on the show. I think that's what it is. We have not won a game since I've been on the show.
Freaking Zach, man.
I know.
They're listening into the show.
That's what I'm saying.
This
it feels like I just gotta be on the show up until we get a win. Just so I can prove that it's not me.
Well, 3-14, then you're gonna be on the show.
I'm just gonna be a permanent cast member now.
Right. Yeah, that's it's tough. But so me and Zach are predicting losses. Santiago is predicting a win. But I mean, does anything really change if the Bucs win this game? I mean, is there a glimmer of hope if they win this game? Zach, we'll start with you. I mean, do you feel like, maybe they're going to turn it around? Like, is this kind of maybe a turnaround game for you if they win?
I want it to be. Like in my heart of hearts, I want to say we just beat the Rams. We could turn this around. We're going to go to the Super Bowl again. This is not the Rams of old. This is not last year's Rams or the year before that. This is a very mediocre Rams team.
For sure.
Now, if you're looking at the headlines, I guarantee you there's going to be some, Tampa's back on track. They're looking so good. It doesn't matter how much they win by, how good they play. If they win the game, the headlines are going to be, is this it? Did Tampa turn it around? Right. Realistically, I don't think that this is a turnaround game, win or lose. I think going into it, we're probably expected to lose this game. I haven't looked at the numbers yet, so I don't know. But I'd imagine we're probably expected to lose this game. And if we do, we expected that. And if we win, it's like, all right, it's a mediocre Rams team.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like you're not really putting too much stock into this game because, like you said, the Rams are not a good football team. Santiago, how about you're our shining light, Santiago? So the rest of us,
the Buccaneer in shining, not armor because we don't want, Buccaneers don't want armor, but shining nice RBLR gear,
Right.
If we win, okay, well we'll be closer to 500 as a record, and then and if we win the following game, we'll be 500. So it's always a positive because there's always a solution to everything, and there's positive. If you put positive energy,
all right,
anything, with positive energy, good things happen.
Okay. I've been putting that positive energy into the Mega Millions for a while, and I'm still broke.
Hey, Mega Million Powerball plays today, 1.2 billion. So,
I mean,
so
Chicago, you mentioned it. The Bucs could go up to 500 if they win these next two games. Big if. So taking a look around the division, 500 football could win this division. I mean, it's kind of remarkable. This division is so bad. The Falcons are playing the Chargers this week, and who really cares about who the Panthers or the Saints play because they're going to lose anyways. I mean, the Falcons are underdogs against the Chargers, but the Chargers seem to find new ways to lose every week. I mean,
they look so bad.
Yeah, they're such a talented team. It's so tough to see such a good team struggle so mightily. And last season at the end of the year, they had. I'm going on and on about the Chargers. This is a Bucs podcast, but at the end of the season, they had that weird at the end of the game thing. I mean, it's weird, but it's weird to say, but the Bucs could still win the division even as poorly as they're playing. I mean, what are y'all's thoughts? Do you think that if the Bucs win this game against the Rams, do you think maybe they're not Super Bowl contenders, but maybe they win the division? I mean, at this point, it looks like the Falcons might win the division. So how are y'all feeling about the division chances if they win this game this week?
Go ahead. You go first, Santiago. I'll let you take the lead on this one.
Yeah, man, the division, it's a bad division. Like, there's really no ifs, ands, or what about it. You know what I'm saying? So, just as long as those our division rivals lose their games, and we can like scratch and claw and win our games, and become first place, get into the playoffs. Playoffs is a win and go on, lose and go home. You know what I'm saying? So, anything can happen. And with a quarterback like Tom Brady, as we already know how great he can be and everything like that, obviously this team in a playoff scenario can be, this team can be, a dangerous team, I guess, in the playoffs. You know what I mean? But, we still have to get there. So,
Yeah.
what do you guys think?
Yeah, so I think you said it perfectly when you said the quarterback that Tom Brady can be. And I don't think that he's shown us what he can do this season, if that makes sense at all. Like, we've obviously seen what Brady can do. Do I think there's a chance that we could still win the division? Yes, because it is awful. We are not a Super Bowl contending team. Not even remotely. I mean, just being completely honest, I think that if we make playoffs, we're a wild card team. And technically we win the division, but I think we get eliminated first round.
Yeah.
It just doesn't look very solid. And I think looking at it just 3 years ago, what Brady's first year with the team, to say that this division is possibly the worst in all of football.
I don't know if it's
like,
more.
yeah. I mean, there's a very high likelihood that it's the worst one, like, in my opinion. So
right.
When you look at it like that, like just 3 years ago, you had the Rams, you had the Falcons, who weren't great, but they were always pesky. You had the Saints, who had Drew Brees, and Michael Thomas looked unstoppable. And just to see where it's gone from there is heartbreaking in a way, but also like it just all of the teams have fallen off. It hasn't been just 2 or 3 of the teams. It's literally been every single one of the teams.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like the Bucs are the only team that's not even remotely close to rebuild. I mean, the other 3 teams don't have a solid quarterback. I mean, Marcus Mariota is the Falcons' starting quarterback, but the Saints have flip-flopped between Jameis Winston and Andy Dalton all year. The Panthers have gone through
3.
Yeah.
PJ. Oh, no, they've only played 2. I guess it was Darnold and PJ Walker or not Darnold, Mayfield and Walker, because Darnold's still hurt.
For sure, or AKA Zach Blaine's boyfriend.
I really did have such high hopes for him. I really did.
Oh man, that's how it be sometimes.
I love it, man. No, you can talk all the shit you want, because I really did. I was boasting him up, man.
But you gotta rep your shit, man. If you're gonna stand on a take, you gotta stand.
Without a doubt.
Right. But yeah, I mean, it's like I said, it's a division that lacks stability, because I don't think Marcus Mariota is going to be their starting quarterback next year in Atlanta, and it's weird because I don't see this division getting better next year. So it's odd that the Bucs are failing the way that they are, and they still have a chance to win the division. But man, it's just such a winnable division. If they don't win the division, that's going to be really tough. But you know who has won is the people that have stuck around and listened to this whole podcast. Thank y'all so much for listening. Y'all have, sat through me and Zach talking shit to each other, Santiago, bringing some positive vibes to this negative environment. But thank y'all so much for listening. Buying something on the store, that's wonderful, but liking and subscribing is free. So whatever platform you're listening to us on, Spotify, YouTube, whatever else, just give us a like, maybe a subscribe. We would really appreciate it. And thank y'all so much for listening to us. Hopefully next week we're coming back with better news, because it's been a rough stretch for the Bucs. So but thank y'all for sticking with us, and we'll see you next week. But for now, go Bucs.
Go Bucs.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.